Today I want to talk a little bit about the entitlement mentality. You know, most Americans don't realize they have an entitlement mentality. We don't have a good financial education, as evidenced by the loads of college debt we incur upon graduation or leaving school. We are behind financially before we ever get started working on a job. We have been led to believe it's somebody else's duty to pay for our college education, either through scholarships, grants, or loans. And most banks are not giving out grants, or government's not giving out grants anymore. They're trying to force everybody into taking loans. And once you leave school, 6 months after you leave the school, either drop out or graduate, 6 months later, they want you to start paying on their loans. And most people are paying those college loans 20 years after they've left school. Most parents today are hoping for their kids to get scholarship. You know, for me personally, you know, when football season wasn't in, I always had a job while I was in college. You know, there wasn't a lot of money left over for much else, not even dating. You know, we're not even encouraging work anymore because we're expecting someone else to finance our future. Years ago, you know, my wife and I, along with my sister and brother-in-law, used to work with the kids, the youth department at the church we used to attend. And we believe in earning what you need and want, and that's why we taught the kids that. Years later, my wife and I were attending another church, and the kids had a trip coming up. And the pastor was asking the church for donations. And then he laid the guilt trip down on the congregation that the kids were trying to do something positive, and we needed to get behind them financially. We taught the kids at the church we used to attend the value and the need of work towards a goal. We didn't want to encourage entitlement or dependent mentality at a young age, which is what this other church was doing. We gave up every one of our Saturdays, unless we had a business trip to take, to work with these kids and show them that when you make plans, you set goals to do the things, other things show up to help and assist you in accomplishment. We wanted to show them the value in earning your way. The other church was basically telling these kids that it was okay to have someone else take care of you and your wants with no effort on your part. We see that as we pull up to a stoplight and people come up to your cars begging for money or holding up signs. What is even worse is seeing kids come up trying to raise money for their organization. The adults are always sitting down somewhere as the kids beg for money. We worked just as hard or harder than the kids we were working with. We went beyond without the kids knowing a lot of the things we did because we believed in them and what they were working toward and how they were working hard to accomplish what the goal was that they said they wanted. And each summer, we would ask the kids what do they want their goal to be for the next summer, because we would take them on a trip somewhere every summer for summer vacation. And we'd ask them where they want to go, and we'd get to working, and we'd come back and tell them how much the trip would cost and what it was going to require to be able to afford that trip. And we asked them, are y'all still serious about that goal? And they always said yes. And so we didn't believe in just giving kids something for nothing. The kids wanted it bad, and it showed in their habits. It showed in their work habits. There's a grocery store I go to sometimes, and a few times I've been up there, and there's always, well, not always, but sometimes a gentleman is actually standing outside the store with a couple pencils saying he's trying to raise money for the youth department at his church. And I always decline to give because I've never seen any kids out there with him. And so I don't buy into that. I've actually gotten out of my car before at a store, and a guy rode his bicycle up to me as I'm getting out of my car and asked me for some money to get something to eat. And I told him, I have nothing for you. And the day this happened, there was a lady at the front of the store with her hands looking like cups. She was asking for donations for her church organization. And when I told him I have nothing for you, I saw her start to laugh when I told him that. And as I approached the doors to the store, she asked if I would like to donate to a church. And I told her I have nothing for you either. And I walked in the store. And so at this other church, I contacted them to offer some ideas that I thought could help the youth department. and I'm still waiting to hear from them. And that was in 2007. Too many people are looking for a paycheck instead of work. Recently, the city of Houston was replacing the sewer lines in my neighborhood. And when the supervisor came by, I asked him why did they use contractors instead of city employees. And he said it was much cheaper because the city workers get established in a job a little, and he said they all of a sudden start to get hurt and they go on disability. And he told me that was one guy who was happy collecting disability to the rate of $400 a month. And he was okay with it because he didn't have to work for that free money. And, and just recently, I was listening to a lady call into a radio show and tell the host that she was living on government resources and had no desire to go and find work because after all, it was free money and she had to do nothing to get it. These folks have not realized that their dignity has been bought for a price. I mean, I don't know what it's going to take for people to understand everything that's free ain't good for you. Anybody remember the 49% coming a while back? We almost at the tipping point. Entitled-minded folks are always pointing fingers and placing blame somewhere else other than the person looking back at them in the mirror. It's just like a dog who sees itself in the mirror for the first time. They have no clue what they look like, so they continue to bark at the image in the mirror because they have no clue who it is. Do you even recognize the person looking back at you in the mirror? We keep hearing the minimum wage is too low for a person to live on. Well, if we really think about it, minimum wage was never meant to be a living wage. It's a learning wage because you have no marketable skills to offer the marketplace. You go to a place so they can teach you some skills to take somewhere else that will pay you a higher wage. And they replace you with a new person who has no skills, and the cycle feeds itself. You're never supposed to be living off minimum wage. Something's wrong if you've been working on a job 5, 10, 15 years and you still making minimum wage. Something's wrong with that picture. And it ain't the problem with the companies either. If your plans are to stay within the confines of that particular company that starts you off at minimum wage, you should be striving to learn more to get promoted to a higher paying position. These folks live under the false belief that they're entitled to a higher wage in a position that is geared only to pay minimum wage. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but McDonald's is actually opening up some automated kiosks in different parts of the world to replace the employees. The kiosks take your order and fix your meal for you. So what is that going to do for the minimum wage employee? You're not going to even be able to make minimum wage. And then they want to legalize all these illegals to the tune of 10 to 15 million. And that's a very conservative number because they said, we need it for the economy. And Congressman Hank Johnson over in Georgia said, the need to pass amnesty will put Barack Obama in the same class as Abe Lincoln. Well, he missing something. The slaves came over here against their will. What the immigrants are doing is coming over here illegally. If you're going to do it the right way. So when somebody else controls your entire existence, you tend to live life from a scared mentality. You're scared because you think that someday the person holding the purse strings will eventually cut the strings and cut you loose. That's why people go and they vote for the person who promises the most goodies. I mean, when the last time you heard a politician talk about the Constitution? Slaves nurtured a mindset that said they were completely dependent on their slave owners for their total well-being. What's different in the mindset of a lot of people today? They voluntarily give up their dignity for scraps on the table. And all slaves didn't consider themselves slaves, they just considered themselves prisoners. As Mason Weaver said once before, if you throw a slave a rope, he gonna ask if you're trying to lynch him. And if you throw a prisoner a rope, he gonna climb over the wall as fast as he can. When you look around your community, if you want to see people that have entitlement mindset, look at the people that throw trash out the window. Look at the people who have trash in their front yard and won't even pick it up because it's not their job. Entitled-minded folk will eat and leave their trash on the table. I mean, I used to work with this guy all the time years ago, and every time this guy would eat lunch, he'd leave all of his trash on the table for somebody else to pick it up. And I'd get up and leave it right there as well. You know, we didn't have a maid service at the company. And this guy would get up and leave his trash there all the time. You know, but that's just nasty. You know, doing it at a restaurant's one thing. You know, because, of course, they're not going to let you pick up your trays and plates and stuff like that and go back into the kitchen at a restaurant. You know, that's different. But at the dinner table, you know, and at your job, that's entirely different. Clean up behind yourself. You know, folks like that are always asking, what's in it for me? They have high expectations of everybody but themselves. People with an ownership mindset take control of their lives. They create a game plan for their life. They work hard toward their success instead of waiting around for somebody else to hand them something. People with an ownership mentality are hungry for wealth and success. People with entitled mindsets are hungry for freebies and handouts. You know, in a book I read, it says that if a man will not work, he should not eat. And I guess the reason the Bible said that, yes, I said the Bible, is because in that book, at some point, your stomach and your back was going to communicate. This book also says to sow your seed in the morning and don't hold your hand in the evening because you don't know which one's going to prosper you and your family. You know, if we read the Bible properly, we would understand that before anything else that was given to man, he was given an assignment, which is what we call work today. You know, before Adam was given Eve, he was given work. You know, he had to name all the animals. He had to tend the garden. He had to tend the fruit, the vegetables, and all that type of stuff. And so before he got anything else, he was given work. You know, this book also says to owe no man anything but to love one another. If we are dependent on someone else for our lives other than ourselves, in essence, that individual owns us. We have given up control of our lives to somebody else. And because they give us stuff, they're entitled to tell you what to do. Entitled-minded people will always be followers and never leaders. It's going to be real hard to teach something you don't know. How can you teach your children something other than entitlement mentality when all you have as a parent is an entitlement mentality? How can you tell your kids to read good books when all you do is watch TV? How can you tell your kids about success habits and all you do is sit back and expect somebody else to provide for your welfare? Entitled-minded people are powerless and helpless. Leaders always having an ownership mentality. Notice I said leaders and not managers. You know, they live a life full of irresponsibility, entitled-minded folks do, and they want others to finance it. And somebody comes along and says, we need to cut some of this, and they get mad as if they actually earned it. I remember I saw some lady got upset because her monthly government benefit check got cut from $1,176 to $1,150. I mean, come on. The nerve of some folks, man. When your benefits get cut, what you need to realize it was never yours in the first place. You know, take control of your life and gain some self-respect. And if you pay close attention, most of these people who have that mindset suffer from low self-esteem, very low self-worth, and a poor self-image. Their attitudes are generally poor, bad, or negative. Their self-image is a direct reflection of their attitude. They get mad if someone mentions their illicit behavior or complains about having to work to live and take care of them, and they don't even try to work. As I've always mentioned, the dog that hollers is the one that got hit. You know, entitled-minded folks are always looking to get over on other people. They don't have a win-win attitude. They have an I win, you lose attitude. when you accept the security, you have automatically accepted limits on your life. You know, I know I'm going to receive this amount of money each month. No more, no less. You've compromised your life and the life of your kids. You've given up what dreams or goals you may have had. Or as I said earlier, when your kids are going to school, you wait for a scholarship. And hopefully in athletics, so the kids can turn around and take care of you once again. That entitlement mindset kicks in. If they get drafted because of all the sacrifices you've made. And, you know, and just to throw something else in there on that, sitting around waiting for your kid to get a scholarship, 18 years, you haven't put anything up for them to go to college. You haven't even thought to put up $10 to $20 a year to be able to get them up on high school graduation. Say and tell them, you know, well, this all I had to give. You don't even think that much to give your kids something. But in 18 years, you saved nothing for this kid to go to college. And in 4 years, which is the 4 years of high school, you expect them to do what you haven't done in 18. So you turn around and you hope they get drafted because of all the sacrifices you've made. And, you know, I don't call it sacrificing. You birth them. You know, you and your husband or you and the kid's father are responsible for them. So it wasn't a kid's fault he was born. It was yours. You know, going without to provide them with a settled lifestyle on the backs of other people's money is what this mindset offers.